Detective Laura Ramirez tightened her grip on the steering wheel as Officer Mark Delaney radioed in the latest sighting of the elusive silver semi, a phantom on wheels that had haunted Nevada's highways for months, carrying kidnapped children and leaving terrified families in its wake. The Nevada desert stretched endlessly under a moonlit sky, its silence broken only by the distant rumble of a massive semi-truck. The silver vehicle glided across Interstate 80 like a ghost, its polished sides reflecting faint starlight as it disappeared into the darkness. To every weary traveler stopping at roadside diners or fueling up at lonely gas stations, the truck looked like any other cross-country hauler. Nothing about its appearance hinted at the horror hidden within. Weeks earlier, the first warnings had reached state police through a string of anonymous tips. A worried parent reported that her teenage son vanished after a brief stop at a rest area outside Fernley. Another caller claimed to have seen a young girl climbing into the same type of silver semi in Winnemucca, only for her family to later find her missing without a trace. At first, the reports seemed unrelated, isolated cases that might have explanations, but a pattern slowly emerged. Detectives reviewing surveillance footage noticed that a single truck appeared in camera after camera, always parked near the scenes of the disappearances. Its trailer carried no visible company logos, only a long streak of dull metallic paint that reflected the desert sun by day and blended with shadows at night. Investigators traced partial plate numbers captured from different angles, finding that the registration shifted between false names and fake companies. The evidence was thin but troubling. Children had vanished along a corridor of highway towns, and every time, this same truck was there. As the tips multiplied, the urgency grew. Nevada's Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force joined state highway patrol officers in late-night meetings, mapping sightings on a wall crowded with photographs and pins. The semi seemed to move like clockwork, traveling east and west between Reno and the Utah border, always just out of reach. Officers speculated about its purpose. Was it a rolling hideout? A meeting place for predators who never stayed long enough to be caught? The idea chilled even the most seasoned detectives. Patrols increased along the route, but the truck remained elusive. Witnesses recalled fleeting glimpses, a flash of chrome wheels, a low engine hum fading into the distance. No one ever saw who drove it. The desert highways, vast and lonely, offered endless cover for someone determined to stay hidden. Each new disappearance brought heavier pressure from the public and frantic pleas from families. For law enforcement, the silver semi had become more than a suspect. It was a phantom on wheels, taunting them as it slipped across the Nevada night, carrying secrets that threatened to vanish with the dawn. Detectives knew they needed to move beyond scattered tips and grainy images if they wanted to stop the mysterious truck. They started by comparing missing person reports from small towns scattered along the Interstate 80 corridor. Patterns emerged with alarming clarity. Each disappearance occurred within hours of the truck being spotted at a nearby rest area or truck stop. Children and teenagers had vanished from places as far apart as Battle Mountain and Wells, yet the same silver rig appeared in background footage every time. Investigators built a timeline, marking dates and locations on a massive map pinned to the wall of their Reno command center. Red strings connected towns like a web stretching across the desert, and every strand led back to the same moving target. The task force expanded its reach, bringing in analysts skilled in digital forensics and highway patrol officers familiar with the region's isolated roads. They tapped into automated license plate recognition systems along major highways, combing through millions of records to catch even a partial match. Soon, a pattern of travel emerged. The truck seemed to pass through certain checkpoints late at night, always after midnight, always taking alternate routes to avoid detection. Investigators suspected the driver used knowledge of way stations and road closures to stay hidden, slipping through stretches of highway rarely patrolled. Surveillance teams set up hidden cameras at truck stops known for overnight traffic. These cameras captured brief but disturbing images. Figures in dark clothing entered the trailer under cover of darkness, staying for only a few minutes before leaving. None of them ever approached the cab. The footage raised questions: was the driver part of a larger group, or was the truck being used as a meeting point for multiple predators? Detectives theorized that the trailer had been modified to serve as a concealed meeting space, a chilling possibility that explained how the children could vanish without a trace. Undercover officers posed as travelers, mechanics, and night shift attendants, hoping to spot the truck firsthand. Despite their efforts, the semi remained elusive, always moving just ahead of their surveillance net. Each time they closed in, the vehicle changed routes. almost as if someone inside law enforcement was feeding information to the suspects. Tension within the task force grew. Every hour spent chasing the phantom meant another child could disappear. The team's only certainty was that the silver truck was no ordinary vehicle. It was a predator's perfect disguise, a trap on wheels rolling freely across the vast Nevada desert while fear tightened its grip on every small community along the interstate. The investigation finally gained momentum when an undercover officer volunteered to work the late shift at a remote rest area outside Elko, a lonely stop known for long stretches of silence and few security cameras. For several nights, he pretended to be a weary mechanic, fixing his own rig, keeping a low profile while scanning every incoming vehicle. The cold desert wind whipped across the asphalt as he studied each headlight cresting the horizon. On the fourth night, a silver semi with unmarked sides eased off the highway and rolled into the lot without a sound louder than a whisper. Its arrival matched the descriptions gathered over weeks of surveillance. The officer's pulse quickened as he noted details: reinforced locks on the trailer door, a ventilation system humming faintly even after the engine shut down, and a license plate that seemed freshly attached. From a distance, he used a hidden camera to capture every angle while pretending to tighten bolts on a spare tire. Through a small gap near the trailer's hinges, he spotted heavy insulation and metal panels that looked far too thick for a normal freight container. Hours passed as the truck remained parked with no one stepping outside. When it finally pulled away before dawn, a covert tracking unit hidden beneath his vehicle latched onto the signal. The next phase of the operation required extreme caution. Standard traffic stops were too risky. Any sudden move might alert the suspects, allowing them to destroy evidence or harm anyone hidden inside. Commanders coordinated with state patrol units and federal agents, setting up a rotating team of unmarked cars to follow the semi at a safe distance. Aerial drones were deployed to maintain eyes from above, relaying its every turn. As the pursuit unfolded, an urgent alert arrived from a nearby county. A 12-year-old girl had gone missing just hours earlier after leaving a community center. Surveillance footage showed her walking toward the highway in the direction of the truck's earlier path. The overlap was too precise to ignore. Officers tightened their formation, careful to remain undetected while gathering proof strong enough for a warrant. The semi's movements grew erratic, veering onto lesser-known service roads and doubling back without warning, as if the driver sensed the invisible net closing around him. With each mile, the stakes climbed. The task force knew they were no longer chasing only a vehicle. They were racing against time to rescue a child who might already be locked behind those steel walls, hidden in the depths of the Nevada desert night. Darkness cloaked the high desert when the silver semi suddenly left the interstate and rumbled toward an abandoned mining road. Its abrupt turn sent a ripple of urgency through the command center as officers realized the suspects might be planning to dump evidence or relocate captives. Unmarked patrol cars followed at a cautious distance, their headlights dimmed to avoid detection. Overhead, a drone kept silent watch, its camera feeding live images of the truck weaving along the rough gravel path. Dust rose in thick clouds behind the massive tires, masking the vehicle's outline like a disappearing phantom. SWAT units mobilized from two directions, their engines muffled, as tactical teams prepared to box in the truck. Every move was calculated to prevent the driver from realizing he was surrounded. Officers feared that a sudden confrontation could trigger violence or harm any hidden victims. As the semi slowed near a cluster of rusted mining sheds, the command was given to strike. Vehicles with flashing lights erupted from the darkness, cutting off every exit. The driver reacted instantly, leaping from the cab and sprinting toward the brush. Officers charged after him across the uneven terrain. The chase was brief. The man stumbled over a jagged rock and was wrestled to the ground before he could reach the shadows. He carried no identification, only a burner phone filled with encrypted messages. Meanwhile, another team secured the truck, prying open the trailer's heavy locks while others kept weapons trained on the sealed doors. When the final latch snapped, a wave of hot, stale air poured out. Inside, investigators found a scene that silenced even the most seasoned officers. The trailer contained a hidden compartment behind false steel panels, accessible only through a narrow sliding door cleverly disguised with riveted seams. Within the cramped space were three frightened children, dehydrated and trembling but alive. Nearby stood an array of equipment, surveillance cameras, hidden microphones, and computers loaded with encrypted files. Every surface showed signs of meticulous planning: soundproofing panels, reinforced walls, and storage bins packed with disposable phones and maps marked with remote highways across 3 states. As medics rushed the children to safety, evidence technicians began collecting every scrap of material for forensic analysis. The capture of the driver was only the beginning. Hard drives, GPS logs, and hidden cameras suggested a larger network operating far beyond Nevada. What began as a desert pursuit had now exposed a multi-state ring of predators, and the silver semi that once haunted empty highways was finally in police custody. The raid on the remote mining road was only the first step in a much larger operation. Once the semi-truck and its driver were secured, investigators launched a round-the-clock effort to uncover the scope of the crimes. Forensic teams hauled the trailer to a secure facility in Reno where every inch of metal was examined. Behind the hidden compartment, they found more concealed storage, false floors, secret wiring for cameras, and a sophisticated ventilation system designed to keep people alive without attracting attention. Hard drives hidden behind wall panels contained hundreds of encrypted files. Digital experts worked for days to break through layers of passwords, eventually revealing logs of planned routes, dates of previous trips, and messages to unidentified accomplices scattered across multiple states. The driver refused to speak, offering only silence behind a blank stare. His fingerprints revealed a string of aliases and minor arrests in different states, none of which matched his current identity. Federal authorities joined the investigation, tracing burner phone records and bank transfers that led to a small group of individuals who specialized in human trafficking. Over the next 2 weeks, coordinated raids in Utah, California, and Arizona resulted in a series of arrests. Each suspect was tied to the same shadowy network, and evidence from the truck connected them to several unsolved disappearances stretching back nearly 2 years. The rescued children remained under medical care while child services worked to reunite them with their families. Their statements, given carefully to trained counselors, confirmed the grim details of life inside the trailer: long hours in silence, constant fear, and the unsettling knowledge that the truck rarely stopped for long. Their courage provided critical testimony, strengthening the case against the arrested suspects and exposing the calculated methods used to lure victims at truck stops and rest areas. Public reaction was immediate and intense. News outlets across the country reported on the phantom truck, and parents demanded stronger safeguards along interstate highways. Nevada officials credited the swift cooperation between local law enforcement, federal agencies, and the undercover officers who risked their lives to track the predator. Prosecutors built a sweeping case, charging the driver and his co-conspirators with kidnapping, trafficking, and conspiracy to commit multiple felonies. When the first trial began, the courtroom was packed with families, journalists, and officers who had followed the truck's trail across the desert. The conviction that followed marked the end of a chilling chapter. What started as a mysterious silver semi haunting lonely highways became a landmark victory for law enforcement, proving that persistence and coordinated action could stop even the most elusive predators hiding in plain sight.